So I have started a little bit early, so waiting for more folks to join. So people who have already joined can ask questions. Happy to answer. So any questions related to GCP I'll be happy to answer. So I see three of them have joined so far. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Waiting for the first question. I've just started a little bit early, so or maybe we can wait for 5 minutes so that people can join and do it. And this is my first live streaming, so we may also have very less people joining in also. So either way, I'm happy to answer the questions. Basically, I see the number of count is increasing. Around 5 people is what I see currently. Um, Let me know your questions, folks. I see the count is getting increased. Uh, shoot the first question. Happy to answer. Thank you, Mangesh. Good to see you. Yeah. Any questions, please let me know, folks. Uh, if I know it, definitely I'll try to answer it. Waiting for the first question still. Doing good. The software service, doing good. Any questions? Happy to answer. So I see the number of count is increasing. We can wait. So I'm planning to have it for at least 30 minutes. If more questions are coming, I'm also open to basically answer more questions, even for an hour. I'm okay. So the future of GCP. So the first question, which basically Lakshmi is asking, the future of GCP. So let me give a very straightforward answer here. The thing is that every cloud is booming now. GCP, AWS, Azure. So now, what is going to be the future of GCP? Now, if you see basically here, the thing is GCP is the cloud which entered almost in the third place. Now, even if you see the marketplace or the market share wise, the people talk that it is number three currently. So the thing is that it's going to basically start moving into a higher position, and also it's not a number game, which one is number one, number two. So now every organization is going to get into a mode of multi-cloud uh, organization. So they know if GCP is what they want, they would primarily prefer basically Kubernetes stuffs, Kubeflow, anything related to Hadoop, um, anything related to AI related stuff, GCP really rocks. So that customer prefers to use GCP. So if it's something more towards Windows based workload, definitely Azure is going to provide a better option there. So if it's more towards AWS, some specific machine types, configurations, some specific features in AWS is going to will. So basically the future is going to be multi-cloud. Hybrid cloud is what I would suggest. So with that being said, Google has a little added advantage with the help of Anthos, a platform where basically you will be able to have multi-cloud hybrid cloud option. Behind the scene, Kubernetes is going to power that, right? So with that being said, Google is already prepared. So they don't think that there's going to be only one cloud in the future. So it's going to be always multi-cloud. So with that being said, with Anthos coming into picture, BigQuery, Omni coming into picture, I see a future for big GCP is going to be much, much better, is what I would say. And most of the offerings which they provide is basically open source. So there's no vendor lock-in. So it's very bright and it's also booming. And if you just search for GCP certifications, certified people in Google, in YouTube, sorry, in LinkedIn, you'll see good number of people. Now it's now a booming market. So I would say jump into this bandwagon and uh, get a certification and also have your presence in GCP is what I would say, Lakshmi. Hope that answers your question. Next question from Vinay. How can you update yourself while the change with Google is making? So what I would suggest is basically there is a website called as, if you just go to console.cloud.com, always on your right hand side, there's a wizard which you will see basically. Uh, in the dashboard where you see the blogs page. Let me just open up my dashboard and just put it in the chat so that you can also access it. So there is a blog page where you will see all the new stuffs. So for example, if I just go to, I always make sure I read at least something like this. This is what I would say, Vinay. So I look into this basically at least once in a week to know what is the new thing, what's happening. And also every Monday, from the official Google Cloud YouTube channel, you will see what's in this week. There's a new video which they release every time. So just looking into these two things, you are going to basically make yourself be aware that there's something new coming there. And if there is something which is related to your project, your work, definitely you can explore more, is what I would say. For example, if you're more into data engineering and if you see something more features coming in BigQuery, say for example, table clones, zero copy option was basically a cool feature which has come up, which is still in preview. You can definitely look into that as an option. So that's one thing which I would say. So looking into the documentation and also the official YouTube channel is a good choice. Hope that answers your question. So next question, I have gone through your, okay. Okay, good to know that basically. So I have done basically courses for different organizations in the past. So now I started something like providing myself. So that's good to know. Vamshi Krishna. Next question. I'm currently working and I'm interested in the certification. I've gone through, have done, Rohit, that's the question. I am currently working and I'm interested in the certification. I have done courses, videos, and still missing. I don't have time to certification. What should I do? So I guess everybody has some little time to look into social media, spend some time looking into the status of in social media. So what I would suggest is, first and foremost thing, Google is very generous. They provide you a 90-day trial period. No other cloud provider provides that. So create an account, and you need to have basically a credit card. If you're in India, if you're in other parts of the world, debit card also sometimes works. Create a free trial account, folks. That's what I would say to start with. Then spend 10 minutes, that's it. 10 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever the thing works for you, or 30 minutes if you can have. So make sure you're getting engaged with the GCP console. Like, make it sure that you see the GCP console at least once every day. So maybe in the first day it could be 5 minutes, you get bored with the console, you just close it. So second day, it's like basically you use that console every time. Slowly you will get into that. So I would suggest whatever the content you look, official source, any other source, basically getting your hands on is the most important thing, Rohit, which is going to make you get into this part. That's what I would say. So try to do small demos yourself. That way the enthusiasm is going to come into picture, and it's going to basically make you, yes, let me do further, is what I would suggest. Do demos. To be very frank, if you ask me to do the whole day demo, I can do it, instead of presenting slides and talking. So I have got used to it basically. So that's what I would say. Create a trial account. You don't need to spend a single penny. Do small demos. You learn a concept. Maybe you look into a video, you look into some official course. If you look into the Google Cloud YouTube channel, there may be a new video release. Now try that in your GCP console. to start with. Slowly move on to G-Cloud command. At some point of time, if you want to automate the complete stuff, go with Terraform. So that is what I would say. Your interest towards GCP is going to come. So that way you will also say the hands-on experience I'm missing, you'll get it. So it's basically a chicken and egg story. So you have to get into that, basically, Rohit. That's what I would say. The next question from the software service. I'm presently working on GCP DevOps certification. May I know, is it a good to settle in GCP DevOps or GCP Cloud Architect? Very good question. To start with, right, I would always go with Cloud Architect. The reason is, as a Cloud Architect, you will get to know all the components at a very, very high level. Some few things you'll get it at, say, for example, little high level. Say, for example, how basically BigQuery works, how basically AI, auto ML stuff works. Those things, if you know at a high level, that's good. But more towards infrastructure, how networking works, how Kubernetes stuff works, how virtual machines works. If you get into those things deeper, that's going to be really good. Now, as an architect, you need to know everything, every component. What is DLP? What is basically say, for example, the data migration tool. So every product you need to know at least at a high level. So Google has done a great job, so you will be able to see GCP in 4 words. So having every products awareness is very important, so that you can specialize into one specific certification. So once you know every component in GCP, some few things at a high level, some few things at a low, like deep dive, then what you can do basically is specialize into data engineering, DevOps. Now, if I'm more into DevOps, I'll be primarily focusing on, say, products like Cloud Build, Kubernetes, Active Container Registry, Artifact Registry, those kind of stuffs, Terraform. So that is what I'm going to focus. Now I'm going to specialize into those kind of stuff. So I would say, to start with, basically, start with Cloud Architect. I would call that as an entry level, because you know every product at a high level and you're going to design it. Once you design it with a specialized course like DevOps, network engineer, security engineer, data engineer, you're going to specialize it. So the software service, so answer is, start with Cloud Architect if you have. So you prepare for it. You don't need to write an exam. Once you have all the awareness, then go for a specific certification which is of your interest. Because if you want to focus only on DevOps part, there will be very specific products which you will be focusing on. So maybe you need to have the core infrastructure ready. So how to create basically, say, for example, a network. Without creating a network, you cannot even use Kubernetes. Now, Kubernetes, when I talk DevOps, Kubernetes is going to have a very important role. CI, CD, all those things, if you are going to do it. Now, without a network, I cannot create a Kubernetes cluster. Now I need to know how to create a network at a high level. If I know that, it's going to be really helpful. So that is where Cloud Architect is going to come into picture. So that's my basic option. Start with Cloud Architect. You don't need to take a certification. You know everything at a high level, then fine tune into something special. That's it. Okay, so that's one thing. Next, going to Rohit's question. Shall we learn other cloud platform too? I'm into GCP from the last three. Definitely. So because, as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the questions, multi-cloud is going to be the future. So if you have in your resume basically multi-cloud architect, definitely you are going to have a different value which you are going to bring. So definitely, and always, if you have already mastered GCP, right, what you can do is, there is a comparison page. So that's a good choice where you can compare basically GCP and AWS, GCP, and Azure. So you can easily compare those products. And there is a nice website which is available in GCP, where they talk about the comparison. You should be able to use this website. It's, you have lots of content in available in internet, but from an official source, if you want to compare it, Rohit, you can look into it, where they show what is basically an app engine called in AWS, Beanstalk. What is that called in Azure? App service or something. What is Cloud Run called as in AWS? Fargate. So you will be able to know the product name. And when you learn one cloud completely, learning the second cloud is going to be little easy. Only thing is that you want to find out the differences there. For example, if I know Cloud SQL, service completely. I know in GCP it provides MySQL, Postgres, Microsoft SQL Server. Now, if I look at the same product in AWS, it's going to be called as RDS. So now they provide other few services, managed databases like Oracle, those kind of stuff. Now I know the difference. Now I also know it's a managed database, so I don't need to take a backup manually. I don't need to patch it. So everything is going to be managed. So that's how I would say. And definitely learning other cloud is definitely a good choice. So master one and do it. That's another good choice. And use this comparison page, which I put it in the chat. Hope that answers your question. The next question from Lakshmi. Packages for GCP, example, 3 years of experience. Good question. So what I would suggest is I can give my own I can give my own example. So I have worked in different parts of the world. So when I just wanted to give, because what I see from my perspective. So when I was working in Singapore, basically I was working in a different technology. Now later I moved to India. So the salary which I was drawing in Singapore and the salary which I got in basically India was almost the same, minus the rent which I was paying in Singapore. I was not having a house in Singapore, so I was staying in a rented house. So uh, that was the salary which I was able to get, just because I had a certified stuff and I had some little exposure on GCP. So that was the thing. So that's a small comparison, is what I would say. So it's definitely good, because I also see lots of messages in LinkedIn like, what's are you interested in having a change? And I see basically the package which they offer is good. um, Not only for GCP, for every other cloud. And you can also see there are some surveys. Yes, there are going to be some little cooking happening behind the scene when it comes to surveys. But when you look into surveys like which you have it in this, let me just put it in the chat. So when you look into this chat, right, you will see this message. You will see basically Google Cloud certifications are highly rated certifications. So I personally myself, I have seen a very drastic change in my career, is what I would say, after certification and after having a good amount of exposure. So with 3 years of exposure, definitely you will be able to. I don't have a number, so I just took my example with respect to the salary. You see a great change there. How to prepare? Next question from Sai Pavan Kumar. So how to prepare for data engineering? To I would say, when it comes to data engineering, this is my favorite in just this thing. And the reason is I took first as my certification is data engineering, only because I come from a programming background. So it was easy for me to digest the concepts and basically clear it in first go in 2018. How do I prepare for it? Basically, what I would suggest is, if you're coming from a little bit of a data engineering background, so if you have used ETL tools, or if you have used Python to do anything, do the same activity in GCP. So maybe in very, very simple terms, I have a Python code which does a small transformation, a data transformation, and some regular expression. Now, instead of running it on a virtual machine, basically I moved that small piece of code into basically a cloud function, which is going to be serverless, and I can do the transformation. This is a very simple option. Or I can use basically data flow to do it. If I want to have a little more distributed option, that's one other option. And that is where you are going to slowly move to your ETL part of it. That's also one of the important stuff which you are going to learn in data engineering. And another important stuff from the data engineering exam is BigQuery. The more you go deeper into BigQuery, more easy is for your data engineering certification to be clear. That's what I would say. And another important thing is, Google offers you something called a sandbox environment. So you don't need to have even a credit card. All you need to have is just basically a email address, a brand new email address. Just go to console.cloud.google.com and create a new project. You will be able to get a sandbox environment in BigQuery. Because I would say uh, I have taken it twice. So I have my renewal in the next few days. So I have to take my third time the certification if I want to renew it. So I'm planning to take it so that I can show in my resume 6 years I have been working on GCP officially, kind of a stuff. So BigQuery is going to come. The number of questions which I have seen in 2 times the question exam which I have taken, good number of questions have come. So the more you go into BigQuery, more is going to be easy for you. So few things which I would say is, in very simple terms, at a very simple term, when you open your GCP console, right, you will have a specific section called as analytics. So if you can master that, all the products in that analytics section, where there are Composer, Dataproc, PubSub, Dataflow, DataStream, IoT Core, BigQuery, Dataplex is something newly added, we can ignore it, Data Catalog, Data Fusion, Data Prep, these things, and little bit of compute engine, cloud functions. It's going to give us a very good cutting edge over the engineering exam. Data engineering exam is what I would say. And always, I would always prefer to do this. Now, for example, if I take any certification, right, I go to that specific certification. For example, PDE, the this thing. So there is an exam guide. So people who have taken this know, but people who have never taken this, so go to this website. Instead of relying on unofficial websites, right, refer to our official website. So the link I have mentioned it here, Sai, where you can look into what are the exam topics which is going to come into picture. So entire stuff is mentioned here, the content for that. Just look into it, you'll get an idea. In simple terms, whatever is the products mentioned in the analytics section is going to be very important. A very basic level exposure on networking could be good. Something like intermediate exposure on compute engine, cloud functions, and cloud run could be good choice. You don't need to master Kubernetes for data engineering. So those kind of information you'll be able to get it in the link which I have just mentioned, official link basically. So next question from Shanmukh. Career opportunities in GCP in Singapore for architect and DevOps. Definitely, it's going to be there. So I have seen many times an offer coming there. The only reason is I am not basically change my current role. So like more doing a more of a freelancer work. Good amount of opportunity is there. And the thing is that you get an offer even in Google Singapore. Basically, it's just a matter of just looking into careers.google.com. You'll get an opportunity there. Shanmukh, Sandeep, that's what I would say. It is much wide open, easy to get a good role in basically Singapore, specifically on GCP, I would say. They have lots of programs. Google and Singapore government itself have some good number of programs, which is basically to promote the cloud adoption in the country. That's what I would say. So it's very huge. The next question from Fun. Hope I don't lose the track. 1 minute. Hi Mahesh, can you please suggest blogs and other sites for learning GCP data flow? What would be a material to data flow? To be very frank, for the data flow, so what is data flow? It is nothing but you're going to have a runtime. So where you're going to write a code in Apache Beam. So the best website, to be very frank, I would say is the official Apache Beam website, because I have learned lots of stuffs from that website, beam.apache.org. So if you look into that, they have small snippets of code. You write a small snippet of code in your Cloud Shell. You can write it in Cloud Shell and see whether it is working fine. If it's running fine, basically you can have the same code deployed in Dataflow, which is going to make it run uh, uh, in Dataflow, which is nothing but a managed instance group behind the scene. So it's primarily running some code in Java or Python. Now Go is also supported, SQL is also supported. Beam.apache.org is the best site, I would say. So where you get nice snippets. I have learned my data flow concept easily there. And to be very frank, I have also written a book on data streaming pipeline in GCP under Manning Publication. So I use most of the material from this website only, the official material. That's what I would say. Next question from Sai again. Can I follow Qwiklabs and trial account? Definitely. So the one thing with Qwiklabs is, if they say you have to create a Kubernetes cluster, you have to only create Kubernetes cluster. You should not go and create a data proc instance. You should not basically create a spanner instance. Immediately they are going to ban your email address. So what they mention, you have to basically do that. That's what I would say to start with, because if you are in a learning mode, you don't know what to do. You want a very clear cut instruction. Click on the hamburger menu, then click on basically the specific layer something like click on specifically on a specific service like BigQuery and copy this query. So that's going to help you in the beginning. Once you have a good hands on to it, if you want to basically use two products in the same demonstration, trial account is going to help you out. So your approach is always a good choice. What you have mentioned is a good choice. Start with Qwiklabs, then move on to trial account, where you can have little luxury of trying various stuffs, because you get $300 of credit points. So it's easy for you to play around with it easily. So next question from Tamil Selvan. I'm preparing for GCP associate this thing. Any tips and resource to crack the exam? So uh, what I have seen is, to be very frank, this is my perception. I may be totally wrong. Associate cloud engineer is now becoming little difficult compared to cloud architect. Even though the certification look, this is my own perception. I may be totally wrong. It's more into the hands-on part of it. So you need to know in and out all the G-Cloud commands, the kubectl commands is what I would say. Heavy good questions are coming on Kubernetes. That's what I have heard, and I have also seen myself in my last professional cloud architect exam which I took. So Kubernetes is something becoming very popular, very important and critical. So they are testing it very heavily on that. So that's one thing. So tips, basically Kubernetes is what I would say. And for associate cloud engineer, whatever you do, Tamil Selvan, basically try to run it in your cloud shell or in your local laptop using Cloud SDK. Everything on G-Cloud command, kubectl command. So the more the commands you know, it's going to be easy for you to basically do the stuff. Any concept you do it, once you can do it in console, the second time you have to do it in a command line. Everything you have to know. How do I basically have an app engine split the traffic? I can do it very nicely in UI. So, but I have to basically know the parameters in this thing. So it's very important. One of the exams which is going to be testing heavily on the command line stuff is associate cloud engineer. So that's what I would say. Do everything in command line. The more you do it in command line, more easy it's going to be crack your exam. That's what I would say. Next question. I have lots of question to answer, I guess. So after good afternoon, I have a pipeline in which I have loading the data from Google Cloud Storage to BigQuery using Data Cloud Fusion. How do I productionize the pipeline in CI/CD? So very good question, Rajiv Ranjan. So what you can do is basically in Data Fusion you have the option of scheduling that. So you create the entire pipeline. You can schedule this. Now tomorrow you may say I wanted to basically change the stuffs. So the source is Google Cloud Storage. I have some wrangling, but along with writing it into BigQuery, I also want to write it into Spanner. If that is a requirement change, you want it, or you do some changes in your wrangling. So that piece you want to update it is your question. So what you can do is basically you have an option of getting the JSON file, the entire data fusion pipeline. You can export it as a JSON. So if you can modify the JSON and use basically a cloud build option, so you write this JSON file, commit it into a source repository. The moment you commit it, basically, right, you can basically go and run a gcloud command. So you can have this as a steps in your cloud build. So gcloud command to basically import the JSON file into your data fusion, you will have the updated pipeline. So it's going to trigger it. So any changes you do, it's going to reflect there. So with the help of cloud build, you can do it. I have exported the JSON file and imported back into data fusion to save some cost, because data fusion cannot be stopped. So in one of the implementations, I have done this. Basically, export it, keep the JSON file, delete the data fusion instance, and whenever I want it, I'm going to provision it, because data fusion takes around 20 minutes to provision it and import this back. So this way I have done it. So cloud build, if I add it, I can definitely have that kind of CI/CD option there. So hope that answers your question. So next question from Vamshi. Will there be any difference between learning directly from Mahesh and Mahesh training from other batches? Have sent your direct. So okay, good, interesting question. So thing is that if I do only myself, so I take batches, different things. So I do it for some corporates, I do it basically myself. So the myself part is only on Saturdays and Sundays. So if it's going to be done for a specific organization, time is a constraint, because they will mention in 20 hours you have to finish this, in 30 hours you have to do it. But when I do it myself, I don't put a constraint on the time. So people, I guess couple of them are already in the chat who are taking courses, the weekend courses from me. So I stretch as much as possible. So for me, the time is not a constraint if it's my own class, my own batch, because it's individuals who have come for upgrading their career. So as deep dive they want, they go. So today also we were looking into networking. We had some shared VPC concept discussed. There was a good number of questions asked. So we did a live demo. So, but I cannot do this in a corporate training because there's a time constraint. There's a budget constraint, because nothing to blame there. So we have a time constraint. So that is what I would say. The time is going to be the difference. So here I may have no constraint. As long as you get the concept in my own training, I'm happy. So, but there with the time constraint, I have to finish it. That's what I would say, Vamshi. So next from Nagendra, I'm from ETL background, so I learned GCP. Is it full? Is it useful? Definitely, Nagendra. Data engineering is what I would suggest for you. So if you have a small recommendation, if you can take it from me, I would say data engineering is going to be really helpful. So the ETL which you may be doing, you may be running something on, say for example, what. Um Informatica, Talent D, you may write some Python code. So all those things I can basically run this in GCP. I have good number of ETL tools. I also can run these ETL tools in GCP. Talent, Informatica, I can run it. Or I can use ETL tools like Dataflow, Dataproc, data integration tools like Data Fusion. If I don't want to write a code, I can use Data Fusion or I can use Databricks. So there's a good number of tools. So for your background, data engineering is going to be really, really helpful. GCP is going to be really helpful. So next, Sri Vidya, please do classes using command line. So definitely I'll do that. So yeah, sure, I'll do that. Uh, so in the classes which I do, I basically have a mix of both. So I don't take associate cloud engineer. I only primarily take cloud architect and data engineering stuff. Data engineering, I'm updating the content. So once I clear my third time certification, I thought afterwards I'll take a course so that it's going to be more helpful. So hope I have not lost the track. Rohit, what are the industry standards components for GCP? GCP has become more than 1,000. So being a data engineer, always run learning components, all the stuff. Do we have the list of? So really true. So even if you look into the YouTube, which I have, the demos which I have seen, so the number of products in the beginning was less. Now it is increasing. So very frequently they are adding more products because they have good number of use cases. Now it is basically if I'm basically data engineer, so if there's any change in basically networking, is it going to impact me? Mostly not, is what I would say. Now what I would say is, if you are working on a very niche area, data engineer, DevOps kind of stuff, what are the updates for you? Just look into that, is what I would suggest. That's going to be really helpful. So yes, learning the entire stuff is going to be helpful, but it could be basically a little overhead if you don't have time to cover all the stuffs. So if you are working, for example, right, I'm basically I do basically good amount of consultation work. So I keep getting updates as network engineer, data engineer, cloud architect, all those things. So recently I was exploring something called as zero copy option in BigQuery, so which was basically supported by very easily by snowflakes. So I wanted to get an equivalent of that in BigQuery, and I recently figured it out. There is an option called as table clones, zero copy. So if so that's a good option. So I wanted that, I just looked into it, I basically got update. Now I'm least bothered what is happening in networking, because I may not be doing any networking stuff as a data engineer. So that is how I would say, Rohit, get updated. So first get updated in your area, go deep as possible, maybe high level stuffs wherever it is required. Like for example, there are new products like Dataplex, data stream, which can do some CDC kind of stuff. That could be a helpful one. So that's what I would say. So the next question, planning to learn GCP basics prerequisite from learning. I'm looking for a good GCP training. So for example, if you see the official documentation, basically Butla Pudi application. So that's the person who has asked the question. Prerequisite is none. Officially, if you look into any certifications of GCP, they say there is no prerequisite, but good to have is what they mention is, if it's professional certification, 3-year experience in IT industry, so that you know what is a VM, you know what is an IP address, you know those basics. Then at least an year experience in GCP, meaning when you start your journey, cloud journey, by the time you finish everything, you will get definitely 1 year experience or 6 months of experience. Then you can go take an exam. So that's what they basically say. To be very frank, zero prerequisite is what they say. Good to have is if you know uh, some VM concepts, some how do I use a virtual box, how do I create a database, how do I interact with the database, uh, what is an IP address, what is a NAT. So these basics, if I know, it's going to be really easy for you to pick up. That's the thing. So, but it's not mandatory. Next question from Sagar. I have a GCP updated exam topic for a cloud architect. Has a GCP exam topic are still they are the same? So per my understanding, the last update was on 1st of May 2021. Um, Afterwards, I have also not taken the exam. So per my understanding, it is not changed. So it is basically the stuff is what I see. So it is not changed. So that is my understanding. So I'll also see if there's any updates. I'll make a video out of it. Based on the experience, recent exam pattern, can you please elaborate which item to be heavily tested? Heavily tested is Kubernetes, is what I have seen. Heavily tested is on Kubernetes. So go as deep as possible on your Kubernetes concept. So it is going to help you in associate cloud engineer also, cloud architect also. So even in the course which I take basically on weekends, we have gone so deep in Kubernetes that we have learned some good concepts. Anthos at a high level is going to be really good. Knowing Istio is going to be really good. How to use Secret Manager is going to be really good, because there are 4 case studies which basically talks about those things. EHR case study, right, is primarily on Anthos. So then a little bit about machine learning, a high level stuff. They will not ask you basically what would be the best uh, algorithm to use, whether it's k-means or whether it's going to be something like regression, linear regression. They will not ask you that level of stuff in cloud architect, but a high level, what kind of auto ml stuff you have to use. If it's basically some defects in some devices I want to find, auto ml vision is going to be really good choice. So those kind of stuff is going to be good. So to start, I would say, Sagar, go as deep as possible in Kubernetes, is what I would say. Components that data engineer should master in. So the components, the primary component in your GCP console, when you look at your analytics section, that piece, if you can master it, major questions you can answer it, is what I would say. So moving on to the next thing, I would love to work with you, sir, as a freelancer. Okay, drop me a mail, I will see it. But I primarily, the only reason I why got into this kind of a freelancer GCP consultant is because I feel I cannot manage people. I'm not good at it. I can manage a code, I can make my code work as what I want, but managing people is difficult. So I wanted to be like more like a one-man army. So to be very frank, so if something works, definitely we can look into it, Rohit. Yeah. So next one, can you suggest me the roadmap to get to Google Cloud job? So what I would say, some Tamil Selvan. So what you have done in the past, because everybody who have logged in, we don't have much. We had 27 people. We now have 19 people. So people have dropped. That's fine. This everybody has some experience, right? 1 year, 2 year, 10 years. So if you have basically worked as a database person, working primarily on database related stuff, now what I would suggest is basically see what I can do that in GCP. So maybe I want to basically have a date, I want to become a database migration expert in GCP. So Oracle to basically Postgres, how do I do that migration? So in GCP, that is what you should basically look, so that your past experience is also used and your new experience is also going to be leveraged. So now you can position yourself as a database expert because of your previous job history, and I'm a data engineer, or I'm a data cloud architect. I'm basically a database migration expert, which I can do. So that is how I would say, where there's a merger of a new technology which you have learned and also your past. So this merger is going to give you a better choice. So to be very frank, because I come from basically this programming background, all those things. When I felt in 2016 time period this needs to be a career change, I looked into GCP only from the data engineering perspective. So where I was able to see some stuffs which I was doing. So I was also doing some little bit of machine learning, search engine, all those things. So I was able to connect it, and I was just doing only those part. When I started exploring it, I was exploring only writing a TensorFlow code. That is how I started. Later only I felt networking is interesting, all those things. I started exploring it. So I started with what I know in GCP. So I know how to provision a database, provision that in a virtual machine in GCP. So that's how your journey should be. So once you have excelled that, get into a job where they have this kind of a stuff. Because say for example, if you have worked on a database, the organization also would be in on-prem. Now you are getting moved into cloud. Maybe that same thing happens to that organization also. They also wanted to move to cloud. Now your exposure is going to be really helpful. Experience on cloud and database. So you can get a job easily for database migration stuff. So that is how I would see basically how companies are getting moved to cloud. You are also getting going to into cloud. So look for those kind of stuff. So, and I'm not asking you, if you're from a database background, fully scrap your previous technology stuff, completely learn something new in GCP. No, what you have done in the past, see what you can do it the same thing in GCP. So the infrastructure is going to change. Maybe in the past you would have created something in on-premise, create the same thing in GCP. That's what I would say, Tamil Selvan. So that when you do it, you get an exposure, and it is easy for you to get into a job which does something very similar. That's what I would say. uh, uh, have you worked in different parts of the world? Can you suggest from some earning points of the view whether work in India or abroad for cloud architects? So uh, the physically I have worked in Singapore, India. So now after COVID, so I have got a chance to work basically remotely for US customers, uh, one for London customer, uh, so Singapore virtual customers. So I would say basically with respect to earnings, from the earnings perspective, uh, it's almost the same as what I see. So I fix a number because I work as a consultant. I fix a number, so I convert it into the INR, which comes to me. So whether it is London, whether it is US, I want this X amount if I do for this amount of time. So if I get that, I basically do it. So that's how I basically do. But as a full-time employee, so for the way I do may not be something easy useful for somebody else. So if it is basically a full-time employee, if you're going to do basically go inside that specific country and start working, you have to do a little bit work on there. So I don't have much exposure, only Singapore I have basically. So because I have done that, so I would say to start with, as a cloud architect in Singapore, something like 15K Singapore dollars is going to be a good choice, because I had worked there, so I have an idea there. So physically, excluding the rents, all those things is what I would say. So that's a number I can give basically. Next question. Do I have a lot more? Okay, few more. Raj, can you please brief on the migration of on-premise Hadoop to GCP? I am currently working on Hadoop. Would like to know the migration process. I guess you would have seen some good slides, basically from the official materials, all those things. If it's Hadoop, it's going to be a specific open source version of Hadoop. So it could be 1.x, 2.x, or 3.x of Hadoop. So in GCP, you get Dataproc. So I don't need to explain that. You would have already seen that. So it could be a easy lift and shift migration, Raj, when you're doing the migration. In very, very simple terms, if you're using HDFS file system, HDFS colon slash slash, replacing that with GS colon slash slash is a good choice. Avoid using basically the disks what we were using in on premise. Move those things into Google Cloud Storage bucket for a long term. That's going to be a good choice. So changing your storage to Google Cloud Storage is a good choice, or changing it to BigQuery or Big Table is a good choice, Raj. That's what I would say. The initial part of the migration, I would say, if you have a huge amount of data, transfer that into GCP, Google Cloud Storage. You have good services available. If its volume is very less, something like less than a terabyte and kind of a stuff. If you have a very good network, use something like transfer service for cloud. Sorry, transfer service for on-prem, you can use it, or you can use a simple gsutil command. Gsutil command -m cp, you copy it, everything gets copied there. Once the data is in Google Cloud Storage, you start doing the stuff. So whenever I do any migration, right, I first think of, and because this is going to be data migration, so I would try to bring the data to GCP first. So what could be the best product to bring the data to GCP first is always going to be Google Cloud Storage. So bring it to Google Cloud Storage, then use your data proc and do it. And maybe I would suggest, if you want to be more futuristic, support for more futuristic stuff, future pipelines which you're going to do, write it in basically Apache Beam, because it can support both batch and stream processing. So that is what I would say. First, bring the data to Google Cloud Storage. Step one, use gsutil or transfer service for on-prem, or even transfer appliance. Once the data is there, basically provision a data proc cluster, replace wherever hdfs colon slash 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 is there to basically gcs colon slash slash. Or this is one option, or also you can use something called as distribute copy. There is a utility which is available, you can do it. Bring the data first, then do the remaining part. That is what I would say. What is legacy authorization in GKE, please? I need to explore this legacy part. Pushpendra, I have to check it out. Anyway, it is going in the chat, so I'll try to create some content out of it and let you know. So I don't have an exposure on that part. I have a requirement, Aman. I have a requirement to connect Cloud Run to Cloud SQL and create a DNS for my Cloud Run. How can I do that? Uh, I have a video. If you just search for basically uh, the interview questions which I have a video where I have talked about that Cloud Run to Cloud SQL instance, and that too using internal IP address. So let me put that stuff in the chat. You can look into it, where I have explained an architecture. So those kind of stuff. So if I can look into that video. Uh, uh, so if I basically look into uh, 5 minutes, explain the stuff. So look into this. You should be able to get it. You should be able to get that part, Aman. So it is possible. And afterwards, once you have the application running, you can have basically a managed DNS. If you have a domain provider, you just, your web application which is running in your cloud run, you basically go and change the domain, you should be able to access it. So major portion you should be able to see it, is what I would say. Rohit, next question. I have a .sh which I have a.sh, which is basically a BigQuery, which I want to schedule it once a quarter. I have seen an option in cloud. Do you have any other component to execute where the costing could be even less? Go with basically, I have done one implementation where I totally stopped using Cloud Composer and I use Cloud Workflows, which is basically HTTP serverless orchestration tool. Cloud Workflows is a good alternative, Rohit. So next question. Any pointers how to do GCP freelancing? There are various websites basically. So I use basically my YouTube channel as a marketing stuff. So people sometimes, most of the opportunities which I've got, Vinay, they look into the YouTube channel, they see the concept is good, so they reach out and ask whether you're ready for some freelancing, and that's how I basically do it. Um, um, uh, the other way is there are some good there are good this thing Fiverr or something. So there are some freelancing websites. Just go there, start with a smaller number, that I'm ready, I can act basically do these kind of activities at this price. People will start coming. That's what I would say. But I have not applied anything in any freelancing website. I used my website, YouTube, as a marketing material basically. uh, can I get GCP support? Uh, Reach out to me. I'll, if I can look into that, I can definitely do it. I have done basically. So I have helped people basically to give them ideas how to basically work on GCP on their real-time projects. So I work with individuals. I also work with organizations if they have an implementation issue. So you can definitely reach out to me, Reddy Shetty Arvin. I'll let you know. Next question from Sai. Can I follow Qwiklab's instruction in the practice on trial account without spending a Qwiklab credits? I'm a fresher. I don't want to spend money on Qwiklabs. Definitely possible. You can do that. It is possible. Nagendra provided our provided class for data engineer. So I am working on it, Nagendra. So once my content gets updated, I'll make a small announcement in my YouTube channel and in the LinkedIn, so that weekend data engineering classes are going to be started. So currently, I'm not taking it. Mostly focusing on data engineer because sorry, mostly focusing on cloud architect. I should basically update my content after I take the exam. Then it's going to be more good, is what I felt. I'm an infrastructure person, Rohan Anand. 16 years. I am learning cloud from the past 1 years. I have already cleared PCA, DevOps. How to prepare for interviews when people ask about the case studies? So 16 years of experience, Rohan, definitely would have done good number of implementations. Just think about those things and create your own stuff. Maybe you would have done some infrastructure networking stuff, storage stuffs. Why can't you do the same stuff as a mini project in your GCP? Now you know how to use GCP because you have cleared 2 certifications. So see to create the same stuff in GCP. That way you can have real stories, mini projects. Now maybe you have not worked on a real GCP project, but you can put it in your resume that I have done mini projects, hobby projects, and you can have that necessary code in a GitHub. That way when you show it to any recruiter, right, any company, they will understand it. Or I would also say you can also create a nice small video that this is what you have done. So that is also a possible choice. So if you wanted some mini projects, I basically I have done some few mini projects. So if you just search for mini in my channel, you will get some good stuffs. uh, just look into it. That is one thing, which you can leverage. Whatever you have done in the past, a database migration, storage change, maybe from NetApp to something else, or maybe a VM running a web application. So do the same thing in GCP. That's what I would say, to get basically an exposure, and you will be in a position to basically answer any interview questions. And also I have some questions which is there in my channel, so you can also look into it and basically create prepare yourself, is what I would say. So and the whole reason why I create a interview question thing is it's nothing to leak questions, but how do you approach it? There could be some options where you can bluntly say no. So for example, if I want to do a migration, like if I want to fail over a cloud SQL instance from one zone to another zone without zero with zero downtime, can I do it? Answer is no, I cannot do that. So only when you do some hands on is the only mantra, is what I would say. So if you basically have that hands-on experience, you can easily answer questions. That's what I would say, Rohan. The last question: how much would a 4.5-year experience would earn in GCP? Would like to know your range. Okay, so I stopped working basically for any companies from 2020 when the COVID started. So it's almost like 2 years. I have lost basically what company offers. 4 years basically, little difficult to comment, Rohit. 4 years in GCP alone, I would say. And what's the total years of experience total, Rohit, apart from the GCP experience, or it's completely 5? So based on that, I can think of some numbers. So uh, is the chat rolling up? No. Little difficult. I have to do little research basically. So when I started my career, this is what people used to say me. It may be little outdated. The number of years of experience, again, I may be totally wrong. The number of years, at least 2.5 times that is what is going to be a good number. So 5 years of experience, basically 2.5 into that. So is what is going to be a good package, is what you can think of. That's my simple thumb rule, basically. I may be totally wrong. If I can touch a file that is archived, will it be costing to move? Will it be costing to move to this thing? So if you are basically downloading the data, right? There is a data retrieval cost. So viewing is basically, touch is basically you're going to view the data, right? It's going to incur us data retrieval cost, Rohit. So you're going to pay for it. Even once also, if you do it, it's going to be a charge. So if you're going to do it multiple times, better move it to standard storage class. That's how you can avoid the stuffs. So yes, there's going to be a cost. So if you are going to very frequently do it, change it. once in a year, once in 3 years, once in 5 years, you're going to look into this file. Keeping it in archive storage class is a good choice. But 100 times you're going to download it in a month, in an year, then the best choice is standard storage class. So I guess almost like 1 hour 54 minutes we spent. So if there's any last minute question, happy to take it. Hope it was helpful, folks. The only reason for doing this was simple. uh, for me, creating a video takes almost an hour, so I thought, why don't I basically do a small interaction so and see it. I was happy to see at least good number of people came. This was my first live streaming. I feel very happy. So around 25 to 30 people joined, asked some interesting questions. So definitely I'll try to make more this kind of stuffs at least once in a week. So I hope it was helpful. I don't see any further questions. Thank you, Raj. Thank you. So all right, folks. So last 5 minutes, if there's any question, I'll try to answer it. Is monitoring is monitoring in GC is free in Google? No, you have some free tier. After that, you are going to be charged basically. Um, Horizontal pod auto scaling versus vertical pod auto scaling. Which one is going to be better? I would say horizontal pod auto scaling. So easy answer to escape from this kind of questions is it depends. But if I avoid that diplomatic answer and go into it, I would always recommend horizontal pod auto scaling. The reason is horizontal pod auto scaling, meaning you're going to add more nodes, and inside those nodes you're going to have more pods. So this will not have any technology limit. So unless how much VMs you are going to provision, because horizontal pod auto scaling behind the scene is going to get provision in a node. So how many nodes you can provision, it's going to be controlled by a quota. So how much is the quota? It's going to be constrained by how much you can spend in a month. So it's only budget constraint. But when it comes to vertical pod auto scaling, you are going to basically make the same pod run in a way higher configuration of a node. So 1 vCPU to 2 vCPU to 96 vCPU. Now, after 96 vCPU in N1 series, I don't get a vCPU. Now I have a technology limit there. So with that being said, I would say horizontal pod auto scaling is always a better choice. Is always a better choice. And also VPA, vertical pod scaling, it will not be turned on immediately. It has to get the pattern usage, then only you can turn it on. So in GKE, where to check the logs other than the default logs? Is there any third-party logs do we need to add? As long as you have enabled logging, by default in GKE, it is going to be enabled. Somit 3, if it's not enabled, enable it. And also make sure your service account which you're using for your nodes has the capability to basically write into logging. Then you should be able to see everything in your cloud logging. If you want more information, basically more monitoring stuffs, all those kind of stuff, basically you can use Grafana or Prometheus for logging monitoring part. So if you want, but cloud monitoring and logging should be good enough is what I would say. The website you suggest for having questions and answering, so the official website is what I would suggest, Sagar. So go to any exam. So I guess you are preparing for PCA, right? So if you just go for GCP PCA, so there is a content in Google's official website, a practice exam. I would suggest to do look into it, because uh, other sources you may have some wrong answers. So I would suggest to go into this official channel, and there's going to be a static 20 questions or 17 questions. Basically look into that is what I would suggest. So this is the link which I would suggest, basically to go there. I have 2 minutes. Let me just answer it. Will when when will GS using unsizing? I'm realizing so many blocks, no option to see data flow, bulk unzip, download the unzip in console. When will use GSUtil during unzip? Unzip. I read so many blocks, no option other than bulk. Okay, you want to unzip using GSUtil. Need to check that, Rohit, whether such an option exists. Need to check it. As what you mentioned, basically download it and then unzip it is what is going to be there. So may not be an option to have an inbuilt compressing. Zipping and compressing and uncompressing option may not be there. Is what I would say. I'll just also check it out. How in market is for GCP for data engineers, which companies are reputed for GCP. So market is really good. So the data engineering part, when you have data engineering, right, one small suggestion, you have to have a good intermediate exposure, at least intermediate or an expert level in Python. Without Python, getting into a data engineering job is going to be difficult. GCP, for clearing the certification, you may not be tested much on Python skills. A little bit is here and there. But when you get into a job, Sai, you have to have a Python skill. So Python plus GCP data engineering concept is going to get you in a good job. So without Python, it's difficult. How is the market? I would say definitely a good number of stuff. I see basically good number of uh, uh, requests coming in my LinkedIn profile saying that, are you interested for a job change? So just ping me in my LinkedIn. So if I get some good stuff reference, I can refer you so you can look into it basically. But I say it's really good. Can you please explain the Nginx and managed explain Nginx and managed certificate in GKE? Nginx. So you mean to say Nginx, basically the Nginx Ingress controller, Ganesh, and the managed certificate. So never use the Nginx Ingress controller. I always use the Google's native Ingress, which comes, which is basically using HTTPS load balancer. Nginx Ingress controller, never tried it. I have to try it. Coming to the managed certificate, basically this is not only in GCP, Ganesh, you can also use it in for any service. So for getting a managed SSL certificate, all you need is a valid domain. You just get the domain, enter the necessary domain details. Once it is verified, Google is going to provide you basically a 3 months SSL certificate, which is going to basically auto renew. So if you just go to my website, that website, my website, Learn GCP with Mahesh, it basically uses a managed SSL certificate only. So, and if you see, it is going to be renewing every 1 month, every 3 months, basically. Ingress, Nginx Ingress controller, I have to explore it, Ganesh. I have to see whether, I have to see how it is going to work. I have always used the GCP's Ingress controller, which is basically nothing but layer 7 HTTP HTTPS load balancer. Okay, so I'll stop it here, folks. So 1 hour. So I guess it was little interesting. I also got some couple of questions which I have to work on. So if I get some time, I'll definitely answer those things offline. Okay. Is Terraform difficult with GCP? No, don't think like that, Vikas. Use together. They are not competitors. I have a project where I have to create enable API. I have to enable basically infrastructure like networking. Basically, I have to create various resources. So if that is the case, right, you can create this entire infrastructure using Google's deployment manager, Terraform, using GCP console. You can use Gcloud command. So you can use different options. Terraform is one, infrastructure as a service. GCP with Terraform is not difficult because I have done few projects where the entire stuff was provisioned using Terraform. So it's not difficult, and there are some good official websites which Google provides. Basically, if you just search for GCP Terraform, you get a page itself, a GitHub page, where you get some good modules. So it's not difficult. If you know Terraform, it could be easy. So, so I basically speak Tamil. So, but I understand Telugu, Kannada. So, so I can speak to some extent. So I guess you would have seen some video where I have sing a song basically. So I can understand. So, but Tamil is my mother tongue. All right, folks, we'll stop it here. We'll try to, I'll basically announce when is the next thing so that if you are interested, you can definitely join. Okay. Thank you for joining and thank you for your support, folks. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, folks. Bye.